Now that we're at that time of year when we celebrate Memorial Day, it's a good time to look at the American public's perceptions of the branches of our military. Which branch would you say is most important to our national defense? Well, that's a question that we've been asking Americans for over a decade now, and we've seen some fascinating changes in the responses. Look first at what we got when we asked this back in 2001. Now, this was prior to 9/11, and the Air Force dominantly won. In other words, Americans at that point said the Air Force was the most important branch of the military, and all the others came in behind. Now, we've asked it several times since, and we just updated it recently, and look at the change. It's now the Army that is seen as the most important branch of the military. The Air Force has come significantly down, and then the Marines and the Navy are roughly about where they've been over the years. What we think has happened, of course, was the war in Iraq and the war in Afghanistan. Those wars were dominated by ground forces, and therefore, over the last decade, Americans saw the value of having your old-fashioned Army out there, and that's why we now see Americans saying, come to think of it, the Army is the most important branch of the service, no longer the Air Force, as was the case in the past. We've also asked a question over time about the prestige of the branches of the military, and here there's no question, maybe this won't surprise you, but it is the Marines. In our most recent asking, 47%, almost half of Americans, said the Marines were the most prestigious branch of the service, followed by the Air Force, the Army, and the Navy. Not a lot of statistical difference between those people. Now, the Marines have always been ahead on this measure, but if you go back to 2001, you'll see the Air Force was almost tied with the Marines at that point. But again, we've seen the Air Force come down in terms of responses to this question, and the Marines have come up. There's an update for you on this Memorial Day. I'm Frank Newport, Gallup Editor-in-Chief.